welcome back to Are We the Only Ones? I'm Kathy, and today I want to talk about some of the good news that's come out that I was actually very apathetic. Well, not apathetic. I was very depressed, disappointed, disgusted. The J6 slush fund has been abandoned by POTUS 45/POTUS 47, which is a huge victory for the American people, a huge victory for justice, and for the Constitution. So J6 riders will not be able to apply to get part of the $1.6 billion slush fund that they had set up in the negotiation process of a case that they also negotiated never having to be able to audit. The IRS would never be able to audit the Trump family. That particular case, which included the J6 slush fund as part of the negotiation settlement, is now being reopened by the judge because an amicus brief, which is a brief written by another attorney that is basically going to provide information to help with a case, that attorney said that there was misleading information that was used by the Trump side to justify using case law that was actually not analyzed and presented properly in the court. So basically what the judge is saying is that the Trump administration used false information and presented it in a way that was untrue, that it affects the entire case. And so the judge is going to reopen the case and read through the case law to see if they misrepresented their argument. This was the case that made me feel that Trump had won at that time. I was like, for now, he has won. Well, he has not won. He has not won. And I am so relieved that the law has held. I have always had very true, loyal, optimistic feelings about the law. My husband's an attorney, and I always tell him, the law, actually specifically about this case, I said, I know that in the law there is somewhere, you guys just got to find it. You guys meaning you lawyers got to find it. And I was basically, so I went to San Diego State. I majored in business, but I minored in political science. And one of my political science classes was American constitutional law, which is usually considered one of the most difficult classes in the legal curriculum. And I actually got an A- in that class. So that class, I remember, taught me, because I was pre-law for a little bit. And what I remember taking away from that class was that in the law, the four founding fathers were so smart and they were so intelligent about the future, thinking about the problems that would arise as the country grew and developed and changed, and there was innovations and things like that. So I have always believed that in the law, there is somewhere, when you know something is not right, that is happening, even if the law lands on the wrong person's side, there is a place in the law to fix those wrongs. And the only time that it ends is when you get to the Supreme Court. And so right now, we are in a good place because the law did what it's supposed to do. And I mean, speaking of the Supreme Court, Chief Justice Roberts is going through articles of impeachment because his wife, and therefore his household, took about $20 million in undisclosed payments or maybe they were disclosed, but they're improper payments because they're from law firms that he ended up presiding over certain cases of those law firms, which is considered grossly inappropriate and a major conflict of interest, and he should have recused himself. So even the Supreme Court, there are mechanisms to hold them accountable. And what we need to do is demand that these mechanisms stay in place. I was listening to an interview with Trevor Noah and Hassan Piker today. And I didn't realize that I did and I did not realize. I knew that there are ICE detentions. Obviously, I've been reporting on it. I know that there are American citizens that are being detained in violation of their rights as an American citizen and being held. 90% of the ICE detentions and detainments are illegal. They were actually green card holders, American citizens, people visiting from other countries. They were not actually here illegally. At a percentage rate of 90% failure, incorrect detainment, we should be automatically pulling their authority away because it's a complete violation of anything that we know is right and good. And the only reason why we are in shock, I think, we're all processing because we're in shock that this is happening. I think we all expected mechanisms to be faster to hold people account. But if you stack the deck, it'll take a bit, right? So they stacked the deck and they learned, in a way, I mean, they sort of taught America a really good civics lesson, right? I think, once again, I'm going to assume that we're going to be able to raise a lot of, hopefully, money, but a lot of interest in people running for office, specifically, I hope, women, because of everything that is happening and that we know is absolutely out of pocket, treasonous. A lot of emoluments clause violations are happening. There is a report that Donald Trump is requiring Vietnamese people in Vietnam to exhume their loved ones' bodies from a cemetery to make way for a new golf course, which is extremely sacrilegious. And there have been reports that Jared Kushner is now going to be investigated because of certain deals that he's making that are clearly bribed. The level of corruption and heinous behavior in the American government right now will hit a threshold to where we will revolt. On Donald Trump's birthday this year, there is a No Kings protest that is being organized. I think that's an effective date to do it because it's his birthday and it'd be something that's going to bother him. I think it's also interesting that, you know, with all the news that's coming out about the connections and how deep they were, there was a report that I saw on Midas Touch's Facebook page that said that Donald Trump did actually have sex with Ivanka Trump. Now, I have not seen that since then. I have not seen extra reports. I don't know if they've found a way to squash it, like delete or whatever. But it was on the Midas Touch Facebook page. And so I'm going to, I think all of the comments underneath it was like, yeah, no kidding. But if, I'm absolutely sure that the evidence that they redacted and deleted will have multiple references of it. And it's already bad enough, like, in the court of law, if Ivanka Trump was trying to criminally charge her father for disgusting behavior, she could literally have her lawyers refer to the interviews where he, like on Howard Stern and on The View, which I saw live at the moment, or I saw in real time when they had aired, where he talks about how he wishes he could date his daughter, or that if they were not related, that he would be dating her right now, as if she didn't. Now the thing is not about like, oh, it is on top of the fact that he's disgusting, even making that connection. It's that you also notice when he's saying that, like, if I wasn't her father, I'd be dating her. It's like she doesn't have consent even to say, no, you wouldn't. I would never date you, Dad. Like, you're not my type, right? Like, she doesn't even get to say, there's not even consent in that line of almost like, he was like almost sure, you know? And so that to me was always very telling, because for someone to say that so many times, usually like if you're doing something that is not socially acceptable, you don't ever talk about it, especially if you've either never done it, you don't implicate yourself if you've never done it. Secondly, you don't implicate yourself multiple times. And generally, by the time you're actually talking about like it's no big deal, you've probably done the thing or it's your lifestyle. So perfect example, like people that used to smoke weed, if you were not a hardcore stoner, you didn't like talk about smoking weed because you weren't a stoner. You weren't like, why would you implicate yourself? And I can always tell when somebody smokes a lot of weed because they'll start talking about how they smoke. And so that's why I'm like, oh, wow, you have to really be doing something a lot, especially if it's something that is not acceptable socially, biologically, right? To talk about it to that level and to have no apologies about talking about it, you've got to assume that the person has done enough of something gross that like they don't find it to be inappropriate. So we'll wait and see on that. But I mean, I would honestly, I feel like it's almost enough to almost like, I feel like the public should demand a lie detector test between the two of them just to see if they did it, just to prove that they didn't do it. If you've never had an improper relationship with your daughter, then I think that Trump and Ivanka should have to take lie detector tests about it. And if they refuse to take it, then we have the answer. Simple as that. So I'm just putting it out there. There is so much evidence that he's already a rapist, and there's already a firmed case with E. Jean Carroll that he's a rapist. So it's not that hard of a leap to think that he doesn't care about norms, especially when it comes to sex. It's all about what he wants. He doesn't care what society deems normal, good, appropriate. He does whatever his whims decide. And I think also when he's been talking about how he's never drank anything in his life or smoked or done drugs, I'm starting to doubt that that's completely true. I just feel like, or maybe he doesn't do them, but maybe he supplies them to people so that he can take advantage of them. Because for someone that enjoys such an intense lifestyle, I really find it hard to believe that he has any discipline. For someone that commits this much fraud, like he has discipline in that doesn't make any sense to me. I think he knows that it makes him sound more angelic, the idea that he is completely free of any vices, but clearly his vice is being a narcissist that needs praise all the time and has the inability to have any kind of mercy or grace inside him. So, you know, when people are saying right now in LA, we have an election tomorrow, and people are talking about Spencer Pratt. Now, to me, Spencer Pratt is a Donald Trump wannabe. If Spencer Pratt, the only thing that makes Spencer Pratt different than Donald Trump is that Spencer Pratt is broke in comparison to Donald Trump. Other than that, if you don't think that he would want to be Donald Trump if he could, you're wrong. Think about it. He spent all of his money that he earned on the reality show to flex and to look like they were rich. And so I remember on The View, they came on The View, and Whoopi Goldberg specifically told Heidi and Spencer Pratt that they need to stop flying on private jets and stuff because they may not have that money. And they came back years later and they said, Whoopi, remember when you told us not to spend all of our money? We're like, yeah, whatever. You were right. Because we went through all that money and we have nothing to show for it. So then he ended up going back to school. He went to college at USC and he got a degree. And then what he ended up doing with that degree, he ends up selling crystals. And apparently he also got in a car crash where he was tailgating somebody and then caused a massive car crash and the way he handled that was grossly inappropriate and not the way that someone who would take responsibility for something like that would behave. So that to me tells me he would be a terrible mayor. Plus the fact that he actually has multiple homes and he doesn't actually have to live in that Airstream trailer that he rented to put on his property at the Palisades. It's optics, and it makes sense that he would know the best way to create an optics that would work for him for his campaign because he was on a reality show, right? And he knows to a certain extent how media works. He gets how people perceive things on TV and whether or not they're actually valid or true is not relevant. If they think that it's true and they vote based on the fact that they think it's true, in their minds it's true. And if there was anyone that was a fake it till you make it person, it would be that couple. The idea that they could not succeed with all of the press that they had had and then had to basically have sort of like a cult following for her music, which is only good because people had grace and were kind and were giving and decided to stream her music to help them get money. But it's not like she's on the Billboard 100. She's not being asked to tour. She's not booked at any of the venues that I know of that I would hear of anything that would be like legitimate, like something that you're like, okay, her career made her for as much press as they got. So the irony is the best option for them is to run for mayor. So I think that tells everybody that we all have a pretty good chance at running for office if like these fools can do it. And it's for them, it's opportunistic, right? I think it is understandable that people don't want to run for office because that's a lot of public stuff that you have to process and like be able to figure out how to manage and present yourself in the world. But there is something to be said about letting the evil side win and stop you from doing so. So that was the Hassan Piker Trevor Noah conversation, was that Hassan Piker has to go travel a lot for media, interviewing people, and he has had problems going through airports. And Border Patrol is asking him questions like, what do you do for a living? He's like, I have a podcast. What do you talk about? And it's like, oh, like generally stuff about like talking to my demographic, men, like that. And they go, oh, well, how do you feel about Donald Trump? And he's like, I mean, honestly, like, I don't like him. You know, he's like, that was the line that I would draw, is I'm not going to lie about my feelings for him. But he has been detained a couple times, not in full ICE detainment, but detainment like in the 4S kind of like separate search at an airport. And I had never gone through that because I got to hear him and Trevor Noah have both gone through the 4S screening that comes after, or like you check in at the gate, they print out a boarding pass, they don't give it to you or something like that. And it was like, they literally make you take everything out of your bag, or they go through all your stuff and they make you get in your underwear. And I was like, what? That is never happening, thank God. But I'm very much concerned about stuff like that because I'm planning to go to a wedding in December, and it's in Thailand. And one of the things I'm really concerned about is whether or not I'm going to be able to get back into the country in case, you know, they go through my phone or they go through my social media and they make a determination that I'm not allowed to enter my country, right? So I'm sort of starting to feel that, like, the indignation that comes with knowing that this stuff is all fascist garbage, dictatorship nonsense, and that we actually have to like worry about it now, which is so un-American. Like, how the hell are you going to be for less government and then be okay with like they're going to remove, I think something about like San Francisco International is no longer going to be able to like, they're trying to basically ban international flights from going through San Francisco. Like you have to go somewhere else first and then fly to San Francisco domestically, because I don't know what. I was like, what in the world are you talking about? I am extremely happy that we've got the good news that I started out with today. J6 slush fund, abandoned. What does that mean for the tax IRS audit settlement of the Trump family? That I need to know that I need to know that falls apart too. If that falls apart too, then we, America, have a fighting chance to get the country under Obama, under Biden back, where we get back to normal. Under every other presidency except for this presidency, we can get back our country to where it functions properly and we're not paying all this extra money for tariffs that don't need to be put out. Like, it's ridiculous. I think gas prices, they're hitting $7 everywhere. Not where I am all the time, but there's certain gas stations that are at $7 now. Although I did see it at 7-Eleven that was like at $4.69, which I thought was like, oh my gosh, we should just bring a car over there and just fill it up just because. I have an EV, so we can kind of like not do gas if we don't want to. But we are thinking like, okay, if that gas is $4-ish a gallon, we should just go fill our tank. And, you know, these are weird things to be concerned about. So then the other thing, the privilege that I realize is like when we're talking about like price of gas being high, we can still get gas though. Other countries can't even get gas. Like other countries, they have to ration their gas. People cannot actually fill their tanks and go to work or go do anything. So yeah, that gave me an understanding of like American privilege for sure. For sure. But I definitely feel like we're making progress in terms of being able to hold off the corruption. We have some wins. And like, you know, like little karma wins. Like Pam Bondi has been diagnosed with cancer after she has left the Trump administration. Is it karma? Did the Trump administration basically stress her out so where she got cancer? Did she have cancer the whole time? Was it she didn't know? Now she's free to be able to find out that she has cancer because she's not working under this environment. But there's something like a little bit karmic about that. For a woman who provided cover for the Epstein class to rape, torture, molest, cannibalize little girls, create a breeding program with babies where they steal their babies, all the way up to adults getting, you know, turned into surrogates and all of their humanity and dignity stripped from them. Cancer, honestly, was too good for her. That's like way too nice. When I'm naming off all that, I'm like, oh my God, like cancer, like nothing for what she's providing cover for. So, look, I hope everybody finds their way and becomes a better person and better version of themselves. But I doubt they're going to. And all that we have left as penance for them to have to pay would be, you know, natural terminal diseases, I guess, would be the other thing. You know, I think it will be interesting to see how the healthcare situation for her works out, considering she had provided cover for an administration that was trying to take away all of our healthcare benefits, but also make us pay more for them. Oh, George Conway. Remember him? That name? What was her name? I don't even know his wife's name. I want to say Stephanie. I'm not sure. Anyway, she used to be the press secretary for POTUS 45, first term. He was, if you remember, he was the one that was very much vocal. He's a Republican, but very vocal, and his lawyer, very vocal about how Trump is a violate. Everything he does is unconstitutional, and he's a dictator and a criminal. He is running for office, and I cannot wait to see how he does. James Tallarico in Texas is showing up in swing counties and has huge turnout. Huge. And that tells me that Obama backed the right horse and that we have a fighting chance in Texas. The race for mayor is going to be an interesting one. Bass and Pratt seem like the two top names. Katie Porter for governor seems to be out of it. Not really sure in terms of the governor's race. Is it going to be Steyer? Steyer is endorsed by Bernie Sanders. I still have to figure out who I'm voting for tomorrow. That's going to be a tough one. I tend to vote female. I tend to vote blue. So I'm going to see what I have to decide tomorrow. Will I stay within my ethos, my vote rent lead ethos? I have to read everything. I have to kind of process it. Tomorrow's vote is not as easy as it usually is for me. And that's kind of, maybe that's a good thing, you know. But the other thing that was interesting is, you know, when we first started the pod, we talked about like future potential presidential candidates. And 3 of the names that I've always kept in the top: Senator Mark Kelly, Governor Gavin Newsom, and Pete Buttigieg, former transportation secretary under Obama, I believe. Those names have been, I don't know what publication I saw that from. I want to say it was My Decision. I'm not sure. But independent news media that everybody agrees is truthful, said that those 3 are the front runners. And although I'm sad that, you know, AOC is not named in that, I do understand why. Now, who do you think of those 3 will it be? Can Buttigieg take it? Military background, family man, but gay. Can a general vote in the first gay president? Gavin Newsom, obviously a strong candidate. Senator Mark Kelly, very strong candidate. And I think I just need to know if they're going to end up being each other's running mates, or are they going to pick a woman for running mate? I would like to see a female in every race. But, you know, it's hard. It's hard out there for women, right? So tell me what you think. How do you feel about the J6 slush fund being abandoned? What do you think in terms of the political races, and does it give you hope? Are we the only ones that have renewed hope in the J6 slush fund being abandoned, and therefore possibly the IRS audit settlement also being reversed for the Trump administration? That's definitely my big one. So tell me what you think. Give me a like, follow, subscribe on all the major platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Substack, YouTube. I decided to open up all of my previous podcasts from behind the paywall so that all the information, since it is truthful, is provided for free. So if you support that mission, please become a paid subscriber, and I will send you gifts to your address if you provide it for me. Or I'll send you digital gift cards. I've been doing that too. All right, until next time.